All right. Those of you that are watching, welcome to the stream. This one is really pretty important. And as I mentioned in the side chat, as always, if you want to help the channel out, you can see how to do that in the description, all that. I'm not going to get into that here. But I would like to introduce the Worshipful Master of Jerusalem number 506. His name is Frederick Kopetz, and he's one of my closest friends. And we, the two of us, are kind of poised in a way where we have a pretty good chance of clearing up some of the ridiculous myths and things like that that revolve around Freemasonry. That's the purpose of this stream. Let me get into my notes here. My name is Samantha Nacera, otherwise known as Bells of Nevermore. I'm a horror and science fiction author. I have some stuff out. You can check that out on Amazon. We're going to have a panel at the end of this, and you can, come on panel, and, if you want to talk to me about my work, that would be a good place to do it. Some of you might remember the interview that I did with Retro Reviews. That was also structured. This has to be. We're dealing with a serious topic. Freddo is taking time out of his evening, and that has to be respected. Not only does he have other responsibilities, he's also fighting stage 4 cancer. Self-care is a high priority. As you know, and as I just said, this topic is Freemasonry. The craft is an ancient and honorable tradition. As stated in the teaser that I put out, I don't have an issue with questions, even the difficult ones. But if you come in here wanting to put out that Freemasons are baby-eating Satanists or other disrespectful comments, I'll hide you. This is not the time or place for that. This live stream is meant to put forth knowledge, not feed conspiracy theories or outright malice. Let's keep things cordial and respectful. So here we go. Freddo, welcome to the channel. As always, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Good evening, everyone. And I am sitting here and I have composed myself and I am ready to answer Samantha's questions and then later on your questions if you have any for me.
Yes. So, hi, iDagger, how's it going? So let's go on ahead and bounce into this. My first question is, can you fill us in on the purpose of Freemasonry? What do you do?
This is going to probably be the longest of all the answers, but Freemasonry evolved out of the medieval stonemasons guilds. The stonemasons happened to construct many of the great cathedrals of Europe, and in order to construct those cathedrals, they worked under the Gothic style of architecture. It's said that the craft actually goes back to, as they put it, time immemorial, probably back to Greco-Roman times.
So centuries we're talking about here.
Many centuries, that's correct. And in order to regulate the masons in Europe, the stonemasons in Europe, they set up what were known as local guild houses around their construction projects that they called lodges.
Yes.
Now, they had a system of education, whereas you would come in as an apprentice and you would be apprenticed to a master stonemason for 7 years to learn the craft, working as like an indentured servant. And then when you had completed a masterwork set by the master, you were then considered a journeyman Freemason, or as they called them, a fellow of the craft. And some of these masons worked very contentedly on various projects. Others continued to learn and became masters themselves, teaching others. Now, the lodges had a system because in the days of medieval times, they did not have membership cards or guild cards or union locals. What they had is that they had a system to keep their trade secrets many of which included various engineering techniques and stone carving techniques, secret, and also to recognize themselves to other members. So certain secret words and
Hmm.
signs were given in order to the apprentices, the fellow crafts, and then the master masons, so that once their construction project broke up, say in Chartres, they could go to Cologne and obtain work there and everything by meeting the master of the project that was setting up to build the cathedral in that town, give the proper handshake or grip and
Yes.
the word, and they would be identified as a fellow craft or a master, and they would be properly put to work without being vetted further.
I have a question.
Hmm.
The term masterpiece, does it originate with you?
Yes, it does, as a matter of
That's what I
fact.
thought. That's what I thought.
Hmm. Now, continuing to go on with this, at some point in England, nobody is quite sure when, a number of scientists and literary sorts were actually initiated into the lodges as
Hmm.
they were called Freemasons. But then these were initiated as the lodges, even though they had no knowledge of stonework, as free and accepted Masons.
Mozart was a Freemason. That's an
That's correct.
example.
Hmm. And so is Elias Ashmole, who's done some
Hmm.
writings on magic and alchemy and other such
Yes.
things. And in their lodges, they gradually switched over from actually discussing the craft of stonework to discussing the craft of polishing and adorning one's minds and knowledge. And El Dagger, you're correct. They did do huge amounts for the mathematics community. A lot of the mathematicians of the
Yes.
um, Royal Academy of Sciences were in various Freemason lodges,
Hmm.
and they used the symbolism and structure of the Stonemasons Guild and began to build lodges of free and accepted Masons, both
Hmm.
for preserving and spreading knowledge and also for social improvement for noblemen, because the first of these to join were nobles of various sorts,
Yes.
and they considered the project of burnishing and improving their characters
Hmm.
symbolically
Hmm.
like building a proper temple or edifice in one's soul as a masterwork to work in their character. So Freemasonry, as of then and as of today, has a threefold purpose:
Yes.
um, the preservation and growth of knowledge, the
Right. And I
preservation,
have a question that's going to touch on that in a bit.
mm-hmm, and the preservation and growth of character. And
Uh-huh.
with the growth of character, we also became involved in various charitable aspects. And Freemasonry is one of the largest charitable fraternities in the world, even though they don't make a big point out of it because they don't feel comfortable blowing their own horn, so to speak.
Right. Who were the very first Freemasons, and what societal pressures formed it? I mean, this had to have come from somewhere. All the secrecy, all the symbolism had to have come from somewhere. And you've touched on some of that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to do is, take a real, fine tune on the historicity, what was going on in the world that caused them to just go underground like that.
Well, the wars of religion, unfortunately. There was a lot of conflict in the 1500s and 1600s in Europe.
Hmm.
Lutherans were at war with Catholics. Um, Catholics in Britain were tolerated sometimes. And then when the king or queen changed, they were persecuted at other times. and also some of what was being discussed in the lodges happened to be subjects that the church elders would consider quote unquote heretical because they happened to ask upon philosophical questions and questions on the creation and structure of the universe that the churches in those days weren't terribly hot in advancing scientific knowledge. In fact, they wanted to
Hmm.
suppress it. Henceforth, the secrecy, and also henceforth, the reason early on that something called Anderson's Constitutions was invented in the late 1600s in Britain. And let me quote a little bit from that. This was a means by which people of different religious faiths could come together and discuss things without pressing upon theological points that were hot potatoes. Um,
Yes.
I'm going to read you the whole section from Anderson's Constitution concerning God and religion.
Oh,
Amazing.
cool. I was going to ask you. That was one of the questions. Is Freemasonry a religion?
No, it's not. It has rituals of a religious character. A lot
Hmm.
of our work is taken from the Old and the New Testament, but it's not a religion or church within itself. It uses principles of the Bible and other scriptures as guides for character development. Now, going on here from Anderson's Constitutions, one concerning God and religion. Pardon the ancient sounding language. A Mason is obliged by his tenure to obey the moral law, and if he rightly understands the art, he will never be a stupid atheist nor an irreligious libertine. But though in ancient times Masons were charged in every country to be of the religion of that country or nation, whatever it was, yet it is now thought more expedient only to oblige them to that religion in which all men agree, leaving their particular opinions to themselves, that is, to be good men and true, or men of honor and honesty by whatever denominations or persuasions they may be
Hmm.
distinguished by, whereby Masonry becomes a center of union and the means of conciliating true friendship among persons that must have remained at a perpetual distance.
Okay. Um, let's see. Why are women not accepted in the craft? And do you think this is going to eventually change?
I think it
Because
will
damn it,
eventually.
I want to so bad, and I got tits, so I can't.
Mhm. I think it will eventually change. As of now, women are not accepted in the craft because this began as an order of stonemasons, and
Yes.
things in Freemasonry change very, very glacially.
Yes.
Um,
I do know
when
that.
when I took my oath and obligation 8 days ago to become the worshipful master or president of my lodge, one thing that I had to swear to was that I would not change the landmarks of Freemasonry or create innovations in the craft myself. If
Uh-huh.
I do that and I go beyond the bounds, that's just removal as worshipful master and expulsion from the
Yes.
fraternity. What
Yes, which we don't want.
right?
Now, this is the thing. As much as I want to join the craft, as much as I want to sit in those buildings and take part in those rituals, and as much as it makes me sad that I can't, I understand the history, and my respect for you guys is such that this is your sandbox. These are your rules. I will do what I can, an example of which is this interview.
Thank you. Now, I think this will eventually change in probably the next 70 to 100 years if the world doesn't blow itself up first, that is, because we have a decline, slow but present in membership, and we
Yes.
are fishing for members wherever we can find them. We had some innovations we introduced in the past 30 years, such as
Yes.
at one time somebody who was physically handicapped could not be a Mason. They changed
People of
that.
color couldn't either.
Exactly. They changed both of those rules. And
Yes.
if something that major is going to change, I feel that eventually the bar against women is going to be changed as well.
Yeah, and if it happens in my, I'm not expecting it to happen in my lifetime, but if it does happen in my lifetime, you can bet I'm going to be walking up to the closest one in Tucson, and yeah, um,
Knocking
and
on the West Gate, as it were. The West Gate is what we call the pretty much the door where you enter the lodge and so forth. And um, this is interesting. L Dagger is another question.
eye
What
dagger.
I Dagger? I'm sorry. I Dagger. Wonder if it has something to do with the moral decline in the world.
Probably.
Yes.
Because the rules that somebody has, this is something I know, and correct me if I'm wrong. Some of the rules behind Freemasonry can be very stringent,
Mm-hmm.
and we got these Generation Z people that don't understand, like the concept of having to live by a code.
Mm-hmm.
No slam to Generation Z that's doing, that's like very socially responsible. I'm talking about these. Oh, the type I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Throw a fit because, you know, their egg and their eggs Benedict was shaped a little funny.
Yes.
You can't just
That
throw
reminds me
tantrums in there.
of something funny we frequently have going on in the lodge and everything. We have a corner where the past masters sit, and the past masters
Yes.
are quite often older guys, mid 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if somebody gets a ward or two switched around in the ritual, they'll pop
Uh-huh.
out with being a little obnoxious. We didn't do it that way in my year.
Yeah. Well, and it's a crying shame because we have spoken a lot about this. And you know what I would be like if I was one of your brethren.
Exactly. It would be
Yeah.
so cool.
Yes. And Bum number one has a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a link between Masonry and the Yale Skull and Bone Society?
Actually, no, except for the genesis of both, because Masonry came first,
Mm-hmm.
and in the path of Masonry being formed, a lot of very similar student fraternities were developed on both sides of the Atlantic. A lot of these were in Britain, Deutschland, Germany, and America. And what happened with Skull and Bones is that a fraternity which was semi based on Freemasonry was started in a college in Germany. I don't remember which city it was. And this
Uh-huh.
man was a Yale student, and he came back to um, New Haven, Connecticut, and he had the idea. I saw this cool order in Germany. Let's see if
Uh-huh.
we could start the same thing up here at Yale. So that's where Skull and Bones came from, but there's no actual connection whatsoever um, between that. Now, why do Catholics forbid Freemasons? This is a little bit of a mixed bag because it comes down to the religious wars back in Europe, that some of the lodges were coming up with a lot of lodges then had deists or free thinkers in them, and
Yes.
they were coming up with opinions that a lot of the Catholic prelates of the 16th and 17th century did not like. Ideas
Right.
about freedom of thought, freedom of religion, democracy and government, and so forth. And eventually, one of the popes, I don't remember which one offhand at the moment, um, pronounced it anathema for a Catholic to be a Freemason. Kind of like, you can't be, you'll go to hell. So,
I have a question that touches on this.
mhm,
Freemasons have a reputation as kingmakers and political chess players. Many prominent people were Freemasons. You know, we just touched on this a minute ago,
mhm,
including people like Ben Franklin, Buzz
exactly.
Aldrin,
Mhm.
um, Gerald Ford, Mozart. There have been a lot of people that were very highly placed that were also members. You know, they were also brethren in the craft.
Mhm. John
Um,
Adams, for another example. As a matter of fact, I have an
yes.
interesting story
Well,
to.
there's more to this question. You know, there are a surprising number of astronauts, scientists. You know, just really, yeah, as you said, free thinkers. Do you actively seek out such luminaries, or do they come to you?
We don't actually seek out anyone except in modern day recruiting drives, which some brothers consider to be a bit of a perversion of the craft, but they actually come to us because we have a
Yes.
reputation for developing and fostering
Yes.
free thought. And for bum number one again, is there a link between Masons and Bohemian Grove? Yes and no, in that Bohemian Grove was another fraternity originally developed in the 1940s by people in government and the press where they could get together, let their hair down, and do some drinking and run around a Northern California forest half naked or naked for a couple of days and get utterly sloshed and
God,
disgusted.
it sounds like heathens.
Yeah, and discuss government issues and work and everything away from the prying eyes of the public.
Right.
And anyway, Freemasonry has a very traditionalist reputation. If you decided to get naked in the lodge and run around and get drunk, you'd be thrown right out because,
Yes, it's called being blackballed.
yep,
And
precisely.
let's see my other list of questions. Da da da. Okay, what do you think led to? I know some of it was the Catholic Church, but there has been this disgustingly pervasive fear of Freemasonry. You know, you guys get accused of like the stupidest shit, like sacrificing babies. Obviously, that can't be true
No, it's
because
not.
it's a large organization. It would get found out, and something
Hmm.
would have happened. None of that happened. No, I know this as somebody outside the craft, that you
Hmm.
guys don't do shit like that. Far from it. I mean, look at the Shriners hospitals. I know that's a different thing, but still, you know,
Hmm.
a lot of lives have been saved. A lot of good work has been done. You know,
Right, and
what do you think led? What myths have you personally had to refute? What do you think led to this?
I can tell you, we had in the 1860s and 1870s in France a disgruntled journalist known as Leo Taxil, who
Yes.
happened to have a big grudge against the Catholic Church, and he was writing rather nasty articles about Catholicism and not getting much of a response. Now, he was looking for something else to scandalmonger over, so he joined a local lodge.
Yeah.
And he only got to the second or fellowcraft degree. He was very argumentative. He was a pain in the butt, so to speak. And then eventually the lodge officers told him, "Don't bother coming back for your third degree. We don't want you." So
Yeah.
he left. But with what he knew, he decided, "Ooh, it's going to be more fun to write scandalous crap about the Masons."
Typical
So
yellow journalism.
good old yellow journalism. So he made up this whole thing that above all the Masonic lodges, there was something called the Palladian Lodge, where Satan personally showed up personally every month to run the
Oh
meetings,
God.
and that women were sacrificed to Satan on the altar. Now, there is an altar in every Masonic lodge, but what it represents is the altar in the ancient temple of Jerusalem to, as we put it, the one living and true God. And the altar is the center of where the work actually goes around. There's
Right.
always a volume of sacred law on there. It's most frequently the Bible, but a Jewish member or candidate can
Torah.
request the Tanakh of the Torah. A
Yeah.
Muslim can request the Quran, the Holy Quran. A Hindu can request the Gitas, the Bhagavad Gitas. I've seen all these being used by various times with people in various religions. And I remember obligating somebody, swearing somebody in with my hands in the Quran at one point because this is a Muslim
Oh,
candidate. It was beautiful, and he had the
and,
most beautiful Quran you could think of.
and in my case, it would be the lore
Mm-hmm.
from Asatru, from heathenry. So that's probably going to be the sagas or the Havamal or something that would be there. I, I know I'm such a nerd about this, but I have fantasies about putting my hand on the Havamal and swearing those oaths and being
Mm-hmm.
taken in by something so all encompassing and beautiful. And bum number one has a question. Have you ever seen Eyes Wide Shut?
No, I have not. That's why I've been slow in answering that question. I'm pretty
Yeah,
fast answering others, but that
we will look
that's
that up.
mm-hmm.
And anybody is free to contact me or Freddo. I'm going to go ahead and put my Discord in there. And if you have questions that are pertaining to all this, go on ahead and ask them through DMs. If
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get dealt with during the stream, because we're 26 minutes in, and this is supposed to be an hour stream, and I'm going to drop in another question. You stockpile a lot of information and knowledge. How would you compare what you do to what the Vatican's Holy See does?
In the secret Vatican archives. Well,
Yes.
their materials are in one location and kept secret from most of the public, save for researchers and that sort of thing. And even then, they only get limited access.
Right.
I had a character in one of my fan fiction works actually getting access to some of the Vatican archives to do some study and something, and it involved her going to the archives and so forth.
Right.
The Masons are a decentralized organization. We
Yes.
have 51 Grand Lodges alone in the United States, one for each state, along with Prince Hall Grand Lodges. Those are the historically black Grand Lodges.
Yes.
Even though people of color are free to join the main lodges now and everything, we have a pretty good friendly relationship with the Prince Hall lodges. As a matter of fact,
Yes.
my neighbor across the street is named Nate Glover, and he was sworn in as Worshipful Master of his Prince Hall Lodge about 3 months ago, and I was invited to
Oh,
be at his
cool.
lodge. And he came last week to my installation, and we had a lot of fellowship.
Man, I wish I could have been there, but
Mm-hmm.
of all things to keep me back from something, having a little tiny kitten who's very dependent on me is why I
Right,
didn't go.
right. That's why I
Also that,
didn't. That's why I didn't make a big thing of it, or worked or made an issue of it, or decided not to be too disappointed. We want to do there, but we know that Adi is so tiny and dependent and everything
and
that,
also the weather.
and the
If I
weather
can't
too.
handle 45 and 50 degrees here in Arizona,
Mhm.
where you are would probably kill my ass.
Right. That night, when it was going on, it was misty, foggy, and rainy, and about 34 degrees.
Yeah, yeah. As Simon Cowell would say, it's a no from me.
Right. Back to the question about the
Hmm.
decentralization of knowledge, and there's also Grand Lodges worldwide. There's Grand Lodges in Japan, of course, in Britain and Scotland, in
Yes,
Germany,
Scottish Rite.
um, even in Russia, of course, in France, the only part of the world where there's not really Masonic lodges are unfortunately the majority Muslim countries, because they've been propagandized that
Yeah, yeah,
they've been propagandized to believe that Freemasonry is a Jewish organization, and they hate the unfortunately they have this hatred for the Jewish people. So
yeah.
that was also spread by another. false bit of witness about us and everything called the Protocols of the Order of Zion, which
Oh, that
created.
oh my God, what a disgusting series of
Yes, it was actually created by the Tsar's Russian Cheka, and there was a false document that
yes,
stated that Jewish people were in concert with the Grand Lodges of the world to secretly take over the world from behind, and that's where the whole crazy myth that we want to rule the world comes from.
yes.
It's been exposed as a complete forgery in most nations, but in unfortunately nations where they have a lot of religious prejudice or ignorance of both, they still believe it is gospel and actually teach that in their schools as true.
Yeah, we have problems with that stuff here in the United States. I've heard a lot of people use that particular series of, I don't know if it's a series of books or papers or what, but people have used the Zion thing against Jews in this country. And I have actually seen it, in the sector, as they call it, that I am kind of adjacent to. I've actually even seen it here with this community,
Mm-hmm.
which is very frustrating to me because I've had a couple of really good Jewish shrinks and I know some Jewish cuisine because it's good. And I had a gentleman who was actually an Orthodox Jew find out that I wasn't eating and spend about $300 to make sure that I had groceries and cat food
That's wonderful.
because,
That's
like
wonderful. But
many, many life affirming faiths,
mm-hmm.
uh, Judaism has that importance on works of charity, which ties back into you guys again, although the
Mm-hmm.
two are not really related
Right.
necessarily.
Uh-huh.
Freemasonry does that too.
The
So
work is
this is pissing on you guys, and it's very annoying.
it's horrible, and I have Jewish relatives from my first marriage, which has ended in divorce and everything. My former in-laws, I'm still friendly with, and
Yeah.
several of them are Jewish, and they are among the most wonderful people. And I also have my JD from a Jewish law school.
Yes. And bum number one asks another question. Is there any link between the Masons and the Manson family?
Um,
Like Charles
ex-
Manson
Except
family?
that the two items begin with the letters M and A. Hell no. The Masons would not be involved with something like the Manson family because the Masons are pretty much law abiding and obedient. Part of the obligation I took stated that I would obey
And
the
that
laws
certainly wasn't Charles
of
Manson.
the country, and Charles Manson and his group were not law abiding, obedient, of good character, nor what we'd call conventionally religious and everything. And that's even between my Lutheran Christian faith and
Yes.
your particular pagan faith and
Yes.
everything. But Charles Manson and his group believed in constant free sex, brainwashing, heavy use of
Drugs.
drugs, yes, and also taking Beatles records and getting spurious ideas from them, connecting them
Helter
with the
Skelter.
Book of Revelation and so forth. Yep,
And
Helter
also with
Skelter.
and also with the race war.
Yeah,
An important, an important phrase is Charles Manson would not have been under the tongue of good report. In
no, he
other
would
words,
not have
not a
been.
law-abiding citizen.
Mm-hmm. No way would he have been under the 10 good report. If we had gone, part of the procedure to become a Mason is that you give what is known as a membership application or a petition to the lodge. And
Yes.
then they read out the petition and they do two things behind the scenes. They do a background check on you,
Uh-huh.
um, and also they send out a team of two or three Masonic brothers who come to your home and interview you about your religious beliefs. Does your
Yes.
family mind if you're going to become a Mason? What is your
Mhm.
general character like? What is your job like? They go to Charles Manson's commune, see him, laugh at him politely, and
Uh-huh.
then say, no thanks, we have no further interest. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd find some pretty strange stuff in my background, but probably not harmful. And if they come
Mm-hmm.
over here and interview me, they're going to leave with a lot of cat hair on their suit.
Now, another bum number one thing here.
Yeah,
Is there,
he's killing it tonight. He's got some
yeah,
good stuff.
is there any link between the Masons and the JFK assassination? Well, I've got something here in this book about um, amazing conspiracies, anti-Masons, and
Yeah.
hoaxes. Um, Let me go to the internet for a moment to work on this because I remember reading about this somewhere. And
I would be tempted to just give it a big fat no.
hold on. I am going to give it a big fat no, but I want to check the reason why.
Yeah.
Um,
And I dagger, of course, there would be Masonic comedians, any walk of life, and somebody that's highly placed in media like that. I don't know of any specific person, but I'm sure you could hit the Google and find those guys the same way that I found the prominent Masons when I was looking around. So I would, Freddo would probably give you a more solid yes than me, but I see no reason why a comedian would not.
a lot of comedians are Masons. Have you ever heard of Mel Blanc? He
Oh,
did the voices
wow.
of Bugs
I didn't know he
Bunny.
was.
Um, did the voices of Bugs Bunny, Barney Rubble, Daffy Duck, so many others. He was a Mason.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Let me, while you're looking at that, I'm going to dig into my questions.
Yeah.
Um,
Any evidence, quote unquote, that connects the Masons and JFK's murder comes down to crackpot numerology, which honestly I think is invented by somebody on a heavy drug. Um,
I don't know. As you know, I have quite a few toes in in ceremonial magic. Um, Funny thing,
I mean that
the
I
order
said
the order
crackpot.
that I was initiated to,
I
it
said
takes some traditions from you guys.
yeah, I said crackpot numerology, not a legitimate numerology.
Aha.
Not Kabbalah or whatever. They come up
Right.
with the idea. Um, let's see what was one of the things they come up with that there were 33 Secret Service agents guarding Kennedy, and that means there were 33rd degree Masons, and they were
Oh
told to
God.
laugh at it. It's crackpot crap like that.
Yeah, it's tinfoil hat conspiracy theory bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Hiram Abiff is a figure that is mentioned in the Bible. He was a good and courageous man, but there's not much known about him unless you are a Freemason. Can you tell us what is allowed for you to tell about Hiram Abiff?
Hiram Abiff. Okay.
Yeah.
Abiff is actually a term. Hiram Abiff was, according to the Bible, the master architect and master mason designer who designed most of the first temple at Jerusalem.
Uh-huh.
And he created many great masterworks, but the Bible doesn't say what happened to him. The lore of Freemasonry does say what happened to him because according to the legend that's in the third degree, this does not reveal anything secret. This is just a historical point in the background
Yes.
for it. There were three grand masters of Freemasonry at the time the temple was being built: King Solomon, King Hiram of Tyre, from which Hiram Abiff came, and Hiram Abiff, and they did not know how they were going to discharge so many Masons at once. They decided to discharge them in small groups and give the most meritorious of the fellow craft Masons the secret word and sign of a master mason so that they could more readily gain work in foreign lands as master masons. And Then, according to legend, 12 of the fellow crafts working on the temple did not feel that they would get the secret word and sign, so they came up with
Right.
this idea: let's force Hiram Abiff to give it to us. 12 of them recanted. 3 of them, however, met Hiram Abiff in the temple with various implements and everything. One of them ambushed Hiram Abiff at the south gate, demanded
Mm-hmm.
the secret word and sign of a master mason. Hiram said, according to my oath and my orders, I'm not supposed to give it up.
Yes.
Wait with patience, though, and if you're found worthy, you'll receive that. The first of these ruffians happened to hit him, according to the legend, in the chest with a wait a second, hit him in the neck with a heavy ruler, which caused an injury. Then Hiram was trying to get out of the temple. He staggered to the west gate, and another one of these ruffians met him at the west gate, demanded the word and sign of a master mason. Hiram went through the same thing again, even though he was in great pain because he was hurt,
Yes.
saying that I can't give it up. My obligation forbids me to let this out, but if you're found worthy, I will confer it upon you. The second recreant fellow craft slammed Hiram Abiff in the chest with a heavy square, and then
Mm-hmm.
Hiram Abiff staggered to the east and met the last of the villains, who demanded of him in a very stern and imperious voice the secrets of a master mason. Hiram went through the whole thing of not, I can't give you it now, but if you're found to be meritorious, we will give you the word. This
Yes.
assassin drew out from behind his back a heavy setting mauler hammer, smashed Hiram Abiff in the head, and killed him.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so Hiram Abiff's story comes down to can you be true to your oaths? Can you be true to your obligations? Can you keep secrets?
Yes. Another bum number one question. I mean, I practically should have him up here on the panel because he's got some great input here. Can the guest tell us about the Holy Spear that pierced Jesus and Longinus, the Roman who thrust it?
Okay, that's the Spear of Destiny. It practically has nothing at all to do with Freemasonry, but I'm actually pulling up what I can on it right now.
Yeah.
The Holy Lance.
Yes.
Now, Longinus is supposed to have been the centurion who was at the cross of Christ at the crucifixion, and he saw that Jesus appeared to be dead, so he pierced his side to make certain that he was dead, and blood and water came out of the side of Jesus, which was proof of his death, because
Right.
after you die, the red cells begin to coagulate in your bloodstream because there's no more circulation, and the plasma works out and everything. And supposedly, then afterwards, Longinus converted and became a Christian, and he's supposed to have been the one who said in the Gospel of Mark, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." And
Yes.
later on, Longinus's spear circulated throughout the world. It's supposed to have been attributed with supernatural powers. It was
Right.
believed that whoever possessed it held the destiny of the world for good or for evil. Conflicting accounts trace its history with various saints and rulers. It was a very famous relic, and afterwards, it is supposed to have circulated around even to our time,
Right.
supposedly, where it was in the Eastern Roman Empire, and then later even held by the Germans.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another one. I've also read that the craft has some ties to the Knights Templar. Can you shed some light on that?
Yes, I definitely can. And to do that, let me do a little bit of research in this book I have. Give me a moment, please. Hold on. Okay. Knights Templar, Knights Templar. Um, okay. I'm still looking. Give me a moment, please. I
Sure thing.
apologize.
Sure thing. No. Some of the stuff that we've been talking about has been a little bit arcane or, difficult to find knowledge, which is one of the reasons why I wanted someone highly placed to be able to answer questions or even just tell me, look, we can't talk about that. Because again, lots of respect to you guys. And I
Mhm.
would never think of putting out anything about Freemasonry without a Freemason present to tell me to shut the hell up if necessary.
Thank you. All right. Knights Templar, history of 203, 207. We could do a whole discussion just on the Knights Templar. That's why this is
Right.
taking me a moment. But the Knights Templar were an order founded between the Third and Fourth Crusades,
Mm-hmm.
and they were eventually um, they became very wealthy. They established the foundation for what's modern banking because they held
Yes.
great deposits of money and so forth. They were really good at developing military tactics. And what happened is that a king of France and one of the popes eventually decided to suppress the order, and they were found to be they were considered heretics, and they were scattered. And it's said that some of the surviving Templars may have infiltrated themselves into what we later know to be Freemasonry, and
Yes.
they brought some of their secrets into Freemasonry, um, and that some of their treasures went to the New World. And
Mm-hmm.
this was a discussion once in our lodge that there's an island in Nova Scotia called Oak Island, has hidden a huge mystery that nobody's been able to crack. There's a money pit there. It supposedly holds the hidden treasure of the Templars, but it's filled with various traps and that sort of thing. Mostly cunningly built with water flowing in. So if you
Right.
dig to a certain point, water flows in. Nobody's been able to get to the treasure yet,
Yes.
even as of now.
Yes.
And
Um, oh, okay. Go on. I'm sorry.
we have remembered the Knights Templar and Freemasonry because we have several appendant bodies. The Scottish Rite was mentioned. The Shriners were mentioned. We also have bodies in the York Rite. We have a York Rite Council, Holy Arch Council chapter,
Right.
and then the highest of these is the modern Knights Templar, which is a semi-military order. They have really cool uniforms and they do a lot of charitable work. I'm going to be having um, a member of the Knights Templar Order who also runs an Academy of Masonic Knowledge. He's my first guest for my first year at my lodge next month.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome. 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 And here's one. We've got about 10 minutes left for the scheduled part of this interview.
All right.
This one's for any gentleman who has spiked some interest and curiosity. How does one become a Freemason?
Okay. It's not as hard as it used to be, especially with the internet. You
Right.
will want to, especially in the United States, try to find the website for your Grand Lodge. Say if you live in Arizona, you'll do
Right.
a search for the Grand Lodge of Arizona. Um, I did my search for the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. They usually have an option there to contact someone to become a Freemason. You set up a contact. They invite you to like a dinner or two where they talk with you, and they see why you're interested in Freemasonry. And if they like you enough, they give you a petition, and you fill out your petition, pay your
Right.
fee for your degrees. It's usually around $300 or $400.
What do you
But
do? What happens if somebody is in my situation, very, very impoverished, fixed income, but they want to join?
in that
Do you do,
case,
do you have a scholarship or
we might basically have a brother or two actually throw in money for you.
okay, and that just tugs at my heartstrings also.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of things will be like, oh, you don't have money? Well, up yours.
Mm-hmm.
And another bum number one question. My uncle was a Mason. He's pretty upper class. Do I need to be upper class to join and remain?
No.
Yep, that's what I was about to say, but more important to let Freddo say it.
Mm-hmm. I'm middle class. I met a number of guys from my interview, including a guy I worked with whom I did at the VA, whom I didn't even know was a Mason. And then after you interview, they hold a secret ballot or vote in the lodge.
Uh-huh.
It can either be a voice vote or the traditional vote where they pass around the box and you either throw in a white marble or a black marble. And if you pass the vote, as they put it, the prayer of your petition is granted, and they send you a letter telling you report at such and such a time to the lodge for your first degree, second degree, etc.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, there you go. And bum number one is an excellent, excellent artist.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some, just right now as we speak, there's something that he could bring in if he chose to.
That would be wonderful. We'd love to. We'd love to have you, so to speak. And Dagger, you're correct. That's where we get the term blackballed from. A lot of terms have common terms that come from Freemasonry. Everything fair and square is another expression that actually originated in Freemasonry, originating to the square. I'm sure you've seen the symbol of Freemasonry, the square and the
Yes.
compasses. The square means that you square your actions like according to a measure by the square of virtue. The compasses mean that you encompass your desires within due bounds toward your brothers in Freemasonry and all mankind, to be
Yes.
chivalrous and helpful. And the letter G means two things, both related. Geometry, meaning the rules of the universe, and God.
Yes. Yes. And there have been so many parts of society all over the world that the craft has touched, that the craft has lifted up. There have been so many situations where you guys were the charity that was needed in an emergency. So, there are very real reasons to, even if you don't feel like joining, even if you don't agree with a lot of what's going on, it's very important to understand the truth, not just the tinfoil hat stuff. Because
Right.
there's a lot of unfortunate conspiracy theory that goes around, and some of it is just monstrous. And it goes on
Mm-hmm.
to this day, and it's frustrating.
It's just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, our lodge is helping out a family. They have a 3-year-old who's going through a second cancer treatment.
Oh,
The
no.
mother had to quit her job, and we're providing them with prepaid credit cards so they have some money to live
Oh,
on while they're here in Philadelphia, Children's Hospital, Philadelphia. We're
God. I'm,
making
I'm
sure
sitting
they don't
here. I'm
starve.
sitting here misting up over that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is what I've been talking about. This is why I am so supportive of the craft. And bum number one has yet another question.
Have
Have
the
the Masons
Masons
affect? Yeah.
affected the course of World War I and World War II? Only very indirectly, in that I'm not that up on World War One and the Masonic involvement, but in World War II, on the Allied side, both Franklin D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill were Masons, and they were able to work together as allies, partly because of their shared viewpoint from what they learned in Freemasonry.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see how that would dovetail. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I knew both of those gentlemen were Freemasons, but now that you mention, how they would interface together and, form this bond and, basically win a war.
Mhm.
Maybe you were indirect in that, but the line of communication between brethren, that cannot be undervalued.
Right, and also after the war, Douglas MacArthur was a Mason, and
Uh-huh.
when he was setting up the occupation in Japan, the craft, that's what we call Freemasonry. The craft had
Yeah,
been in Japan for a while through British influence, but then the fascistic government of Japan between the late 20s up until the wartime period strictly
right.
banned Freemasonry. And MacArthur brought it back. And that's also another place where some of the post war leaders of Japan and leaders from the United States have met on the level and everything to both fellowship and then to talk turkey afterwards. In fact, there's a
Right.
really big Masonic lodge today in Tokyo.
And we've got from iDagger, I know of at least one Mason who was involved in the landing at Omaha.
Yes, they happen to be very honorable. Masons happen to be joiners, and they happen to be altruistic and self-sacrificing.
Uh-huh.
Another example of that from the war, this is a small example, is that when a group of our troops happened to be fighting near the Battle of the Bulge, near Hultgren
Right.
Forest, and they ended up running into a German tank that they had attacked, and the tank was burned up, and the crew was dead. And as they pulled the crew out to give them their a burial of some sort, they found that the tank commander had a Masonic ring on his finger, and they realized this was a brother. They gave the
Yes.
German commander a Masonic funeral right then and there.
Yeah, with the singing of absent friends.
Exactly.
What a beautiful, beautiful song.
hmm
You should, for those that are watching, you should look that up and listen to it because the message is much, much more pervasive than just the craft.
hmm
It talks about anybody that has left you and that you miss, and that they are in the arms of God.
Exactly.
So we've only got like 2 minutes left. If anybody has any further serious questions for Freddo, now would be the time, because after this, I'm going to open up the panel. Again, I'm going to be very, very picky about who I let up here, because as everybody knows, I'm slightly troll adjacent. I've been called a lol cow, but I think I've started to shed that somewhat. Um, so anybody that's got any questions, let her rip.
Boing!
Or let's have that noise that everybody hates it when I make.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I have this terrible, terrible noise that I make.
hmm
Okay, so what I'm going to do in like a minute here is I'm going to pop up the link and just going ahead. Please don't be offended if I kick you out of the studio, because I need to keep a very tight eye on what's going on. Largely because of Freddo's health. I'm not going to have him stressed out. So I can't. Die Dagger goes, at what end of who did that noise come out of? Um, it came straight from the fiery bowels of Satan himself and found its way into my mouth, and that's what's wrong with me.
Lick my lips.
All righty. Oh my God!
Yes, the dignified worshipful master of Jesus and
Whoa!
Lord Travis connect like a moon.
Oh no. Okay, with that belch, we're opening the fucking panel. And I've been trying so hard not to cuss. I've been trying to be professional, but that got torpedoed just now, didn't it? Boing. Here goes the link. So go on ahead and join if you'd like to come up. But again, please don't be upset or offended if I have to say no this time. There will be other times when the panel will be more open than this one is. But this, because of the subject matter, this does have to be a very curated stream. And I'm going to give it about 5 or 10 minutes to see if anybody chooses to come up. And if they don't, I'm going to go ahead and call it. But, I would like to have a few people up here and, make this get kind of lively. This would be interesting.
Come on, say something, people.
Yes. We're now goofy from the intense focus that we had to have, and that we've gone on ahead and released that. So we're going to be weirdos. Come be a weirdo with us. Okay. Oh dear. I think our worshipful master has lost it.
Hey, baby.
Is that you or is that Addie?
That's me.
Okay.
Some of the stuff that I've been doing with my voice is starting to work.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you can hear it, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Let's fill some time. Freddo is a very prolific fan fiction writer in the fandom for a cartoon that was called Star Blazers, or in Japanese Uchu Senkan Yamato. And it's a fandom that I share with him. And the hilarious way that we met is I had no idea that he was a super fan. I had no idea that he was basically famous in this fandom when I started talking to him. So here I am running my mouth, just no idea what the hell's going on. Okay, we got iDagger coming up. This is awesome.
Oh,
I only found out later, the impact that Freddo had on the only fandom in which I've ever written fan fiction. So, color me like, boop. I'm sorry, I've just made like 3 kinds of an ass of myself. And he was like, no, you haven't.
Hey, Bells. Hey, Freddo.
How's it going, iDagger? Welcome aboard.
Well, thank you. So, I did have a question.
Awesome.
And I think you missed it, Bells.
Yeah, I might have, because I was really tight focused on my outline.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. This has been an awesome interview.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
It's very clear that the Masons were great bookkeepers. I was wondering what bits of history have been saved because of the Masons. And if there's any examples you could give.
Very good example. There were the records of St. Andrew's Lodge in Boston. It was noted that that a certain night in Boston, that a meeting was opened, but called very quickly because the members didn't show up because they had other work. But meeting in the same building as the Masonic Lodge in Boston happened to be the Sons of Liberty. And the reason why a lot of the people didn't show up that night for the lodge meeting was because they were in another room upstairs putting on war paint and feathers and going out and having the Boston Tea Party.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I didn't know.
So the fact that was listed in the lodge minutes it gives credence to the fact that the Boston Tea Party is partly planned in the lodge because the members of that lodge and the members of the Sons of Liberty, led by Sam Adams, are pretty much coterminous.
Okay, let me interrupt for just one moment. Okay, there's somebody trying to join that is trying to join under the name sock account. And if this is who I think it is, do please DM me so that I know. Otherwise, I'm sorry. If this is someone else, I'm sorry I can't let you up. But anyway, continue. Sorry about that.
No problem. All right. Other historical knowledge which has been preserved.
Yes.
Knowledge about the French Revolution happened to be preserved by some of the lodges in France. Knowledge about the Declaration of Independence and the founding of the U.S. Constitution also happen to be noted because Ben Franklin was also the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania at the same time.
Very, very good stuff. And now we have bum number one with us under the name sock account.
Oh, hello, bum number one.
Hello. This is my Google account.
Oh, I see. Great to have you on. Man, you had some massively wonderful questions tonight.
Thank you for your questions.
Yes,
Yeah,
that really helped us to put out a lot of good knowledge and information.
I have one more.
Okay.
This is for the guest, Freddo. If you could be in the Vatican vault right now, what would be your first pick of treasure troving?
Trying to find the oldest possible copies of the four Gospels and letters of the Apostle Paul they might have on record.
Good shit. Yep. I'm trying not to cuss here.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure they have manuscripts that are older than some of the manuscript evidence that's out there in other museums and that sort of thing. They may even have bits of things from the Dead Sea Scrolls that have not been released yet.
You think the Vatican is holding out on us?
Yes. I do. Yes. I do. Definitely. Because the typical excuse, the world isn't ready for this yet.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's what happened with the Lady of Fatima. The Vatican sat on those letters for frickin' ever. You know, the thing that annoys me about Catholicism is they seem to think that their rules are the rules, period, and there's no wiggle room. Pope Francis has been a little bit better about that, but there needs to be more open access to those vaults because people need to know some of what's in there. It's not right to hoard knowledge. Mm-hmm. An example that happens, online. Suppose you're working with CSS, or you're doing some other, OBS, or doing some other kind of thing like that, and you encounter somebody that knows a lot about this, and you watch up to them and you're like, hey, can you tell me how to do the thing? I can see that you know how to do the thing because, your webpage looks great or whatever. And having that person turn around and be like, don't you wish you knew? And go, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm like, oh, why are you doing that? Because that says a lot more about the person hoarding the knowledge than it does about the person asking for the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I know about Freemasonry is, like, once you're past a certain point, that's open. Mm-hmm. But you have to prove that you're worthy of that being open for very good reasons.
We have a very large Masonic library at our Grand Lodge in Philadelphia. In fact, when you come down to Philadelphia in March, you'll probably get a tour of the library.
Oh my God, I just got chills.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you better bring some Kleenex because I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to start crying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty passionate about this because my own order, of which I am the leader, which is a little larger than people realize it is, we take some traditions from both the Knights Templar and Freemasonry, which is one of the big contributing reasons. My order has Masonic DNA and also Ordo Templi Orientis DNA.
Hey, Bells. Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Can you give us a ballpark of your order
Give
number?
you some what?
A ballpark. Like, how many are in your order?
That's not something I can release.
But you are an adherent to Aleister Crowley, right?
I take a lot of what I know from Aleister Crowley. Yes. My initiating high priest was, initiated by Grady McMurtry, who had been trained by Crowley himself. I'm one of the younger people that you will encounter that has ties that close to Crowley. So absolutely, I take some of what we do in my order from his teachings. And we also work with some of the stuff from the Golden Dawn. And the things that I have been cleared to be able to use from Freemasonry are present in what we do, primarily in the structure. But there's not a lot that I'm especially, this is early days, there's not a lot that I'm willing to tell people about, because I don't want it being used in some kind of irresponsible way.
Right. Knowledge is power, but knowledge can also be very dangerous. And I don't want to get into the details, but Crowley did have some contacts at one time with Freemasonry. So
yes, he did. Yes, he did. And my order is a ceremonial magic order. We do share a lot of the great work with the OTO and with other similar bodies and organizations. However, because we actually work with real magic, we have to be very careful, because some of the stuff that we know, it really isn't appropriate for other people until they've done the same kind of, the same kind of training, the same kind of research, the same kind of work. Because we need to keep the great work pure.
A 5-year-old kid work with a 50 caliber machine gun.
Yes, and and we unfortunately did have somebody that really wasn't ready. Now, to this person's credit, they they haven't released anything or been weird about it somehow. Okay. So, there's these fraternal orders, these structured organizations that are similar to Freemasonry, have similar ideas on at what stage you give somebody what information. Right now, as ipsissima, that's my title of this particular order. Right now, my duty is to protect this embryonic thing that I'm building. So that's, there is very little I can tell you. I'm sorry for that.
Now, I wanted to add something else in regards to Catholicism and
Yes.
Freemasonry. It's opened up a little under Pope John Paul II. The automatic anathema in Catholicism against Freemasonry has been informally dropped.
Oh,
you
good.
have to now go through a heresy trial and be a Mason and guilty of heresy in order to be excommunicated. We have some Catholic brothers, and it was also come to my attention that in another one of the lodges in our district, the chaplain for many years was a Father Otto Vondrak, who was in fact a Catholic priest.
Wow.
Who came and did work with us for many years, but he said, I can't let my bishop know, otherwise he'd crucify me.
Well, one of the big reasons why I'm so attached to you guys, I don't know if you knew this, Freddo, my father was a Freemason.
Oh, cool.
If I had been his son, I would have been in. Yeah, and
was he?
It's, and the thing of it is, correct me if I'm wrong, I have a whole list of things that you guys would want to pull in, one of which includes being former military. There's a lot of stuff that I personally do that if I had been male, I probably, my father probably would have brought me in. Because this tends to be kind of traditional in some areas. Also, another thing about my father My father was a Catholic.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And his opinion was like, F you, excommunicate me. These people do good work, and I want to do this work. All right, and one thing I want to say is, anybody that's watching this, do please like up the stream. Let's see if we can move this up in the algorithm a little bit. Because that, I feel like that's really important. Freddo, how are you doing?
Oh, pretty good, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because another thing about Freddo is he's in the fight of his life. And one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream is he does have cancer. And I will protect him from any kind of stress, because obviously I don't want, to make the situation any worse. So
let's be specific about my cancer.
I wish you good health.
What?
I wish you good health.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm
Really appreciated.
Stage 4 right now. The cancer began in my prostate. It's metastasized to my bones. So far, it hasn't spread anywhere else in my body, thank the heavens. But I'm starting a new round of chemo next week that may leave me a little bit more tired, but it's supposed to be more effective at knocking it out of me, because this chemo, I went through some genetic testing. They found I have a mutation in my body. They think they can actually individually tailor. And so this particular chemo dose I'm getting is custom made for my body.
Wow. Good.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That's that's the VA benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, this is the thing, this stream is meant to open people's minds a bit. This stream is meant to, give people something compelling to think about and read about and research. And in the case of gentlemen that are watching us, if you want to be one, ask one.
Mm-hmm.
Or gentlewomen.
Well, I can't. I could become the Order of the Eastern Star, but as a woman, I'm not able to.
Oh, Bells, I have a question for you. Which lodge was your father a member of, and did he become an officer?
He was never an officer. He was really, really at early stages. I don't know which lodge he would have been in. I will give you more information about that after the stream, because I really don't want to talk about any particular details about family members of mine. I'm sure you can understand why.
Yeah, the only thing I can say here is that Gail's father was also a Mason.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And iDagger says Google just went blah on me. And wasn't it Constantine that cut out 4 full books from the Bible?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, this stuff like, well, I get to decide what you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's a form of enslaving people.
Right.
And that's why the hoarding of knowledge just gets straight on my nerves.
I'd love to see early manuscripts of the Gospels, because I think a lot was cut out, because recently in the Dead Sea Scrolls, they did find about 2 or 3 additional chapters of the Gospel of Mark that showed that Christ taught some of his disciples on what they call mystery school teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And a descendant, of course, of the mystery schools is our lodge system.
Yes.
And also in the censored version of the Gospel of Mark, it's strongly hinted at that Mary Magdalene was a spouse.
Well, there's been a lot of that. And you have the whole Piso family
Mm-hmm.
that is supposedly descended from Christ and the Magdalene.
Yep.
There's also a Gospel of Mary.
Mm-hmm. I know, I was reading about
hey
it.
guys,
I just finished.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm gonna head out. I have a final question. Hey Bells,
Yes.
when are you gonna do some map streams?
Some what?
Map streams.
Oh, probably pretty soon. What I want to do before I do that is get some creepies out and get some EAS stuff out. Because that's, interviews like this and that are really kind of the meat and bones of this channel at this time, and probably going forward. So, we'll have some good laid back map streams, probably some really chill things where I'm playing No Man's Sky. Fun fact, that's the only game I play. And the reason that is, I had to pick one game because I have so much shit going on that, I just physically don't have time to do more than one full game. And so I chose the pick of the litter for me. And I know a lot of people are like, but they can go get glad in the same pants they got mad in. There are a lot of people that still run around, oh, No Man's Sky, it sucks. And I'm like, have you seen what it's like after these?
It's fascinating.
These 19 free updates.
Mm-hmm.
You have the IQ of a piece of toast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you're going to see some NMS, and if somebody decides that they're going to start playing it and we connect up, you might get to see some teamwork. And I'll try to let other people get shots before I step in, because after being, I'm a week 2 player. I've been playing this thing for 6 years. And, I get into No Man's Sky and I'm fucking God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been a long time since anyone has been able to even come close to killing me. Because occasionally I'll get some twit joining my game and, hey, I'm going to kick your ass, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, is that your final answer?
Yeah, well, have a nice night, you guys.
You too.
Thank you.
Wonderful having you up.
Yeah, good interview. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's the thing. I can't think of anything else I want to ask or talk about. What about you? Are you satisfied?
I'm pretty satisfied, except that do you remember that link I sent you for that trailer for that Yamato clone game a couple weeks back? I know you were involved with a lot of stuff and everything. What was your opinion of that?
That looked really interesting, but it's the same situation. I've got to let my workload ease up, because there are a lot of things that are going on at the back of the house of this channel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I always have my donation links up, because one of the big issues I have is there is a voice that I need for doing ES videos. It's the one that you commonly hear, this is a national emergency, blah, 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 blah. The Tom voice is what it's called. It's got other automated voices in there that are going to have other places in what I do. I'm in the process of screwing around with Audacity, learning how to do that. I've been screwing, like for weeks now, I've been screwing around in OBS with, some success. There are some things that that I want it to do that it doesn't. So, I've got, I've got my irons in a lot of fires, learning a lot of stuff. So, again, I only have time for one game and not much time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, bomb number one says, please leave the stream up for posterity. Absolutely, this is never going to go private.
Thank you.
Because this is so important. The information about the craft is so critical. And I know I'm just this little tiny section of the internet with 333 subscribers. But
spreading the knowledge out there is really, really worth it. And it's very Masonic too, spreading useful knowledge.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All righty. So I think here's a good place to call it. It was wonderful. Yes. It was great. I love doing it.
I'm glad. This was such, there was stuff that I didn't know. And as you know, I've studied you guys somewhat. No, you're not like bugs or something. I didn't have like a microscope. That's lame. But I've done some studying about this because of the way we structure our order. Also, well, no, I don't want to talk about that yet. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on with what I do that just really can't be let out. But it's okay. Maybe I'll be able to release some of that as things progress. But that's probably not going to happen until I more get things squared away.
Understood.
Anyway, we've almost been at this. Please do not dissect the Freddo. No, I'd rather. No, he's my friendo. Anyway, so this is where we're gonna call the stream.
All right.
This was so important. This was such an enlightening thing. And remember to close the StreamYard window once you're out. Once I stop it, or else it's just going to be sitting there and hanging around.
All right.
So,
I'm
all
going to
right.
close it out now. Talk
Okay.
to you privately in a while. Love you, and
Love you
we
too,
had
brother.
fun. Bye.
Bye now. Okay. This has been a wonderful experience for me as well. I've been Samantha Nocera, otherwise known as Bells of Nevermore, and this is me ringing the bells. This is me drawing some attention, shedding some light, and it's been an honor to be able to do this evening. God's bless you all. May you have a great holiday if you celebrate, regardless of what it is. I'll be back a lot, and I hope to scare the hell out of you. Take care and don't step in anything soft. Good night.